perspective books. Like, it's
Like
not
what? Like
like
what?
that is my
What books do you hate that are such white guy perspectives?
no, it's I think I'm poking fun at myself, but my absolute disdain for white guy books is what leads me to dislike Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep and Neuromancer and some of the other ones so much.
You just like
And
Neuromancer?
I just can't get through it, okay? Like it's not that I you know what? Nah, I don't like it that much. Like it feels like homework, okay? I I'm I'm gonna finish it. I like it's
Uh-huh.
really like
You're gonna
work,
finish it.
okay? Yeah.
Hi. And with that, welcome to our podcast.
Live that down. But
No,
I think
it's
that's what
hilarious.
it is. It is hilarious. I think that that's the fun of the podcast though. Is
Well, it's such like how should I put it? Like a very liberal mindset though too.
is it not aimed at a specific demographic?
No, it's supposed to be for everybody.
Sure.
I, I'm telling you, these books are not like, oh, this is only for the white guy perspective. They're for everybody.
Homeowner, you are who the police fight for.
Are you saying I got that white privilege?
Look, I have my privilege too.
Yeah, but you also have that mixed privilege too, where you can go either direction when it best suits you. I don't have that
It
privilege.
absolutely does not. I am pale as fuck. It is I have some cultural experience,
Well, you can
but
always
I was
go,
not
well, you see, my dad is Cuban. Thank you very much.
yeah, sure. My 1/16th mixed. Okay. My grandma's mixed.
You should be like,
Anyways.
is that Elizabeth Warren, I'm Indian, like, card?
Hey, at least I really have an ethnic grandma. Okay.
We fight at the dinner table.
So you don't have to.
I'm Eric.
And I'm Aurora.
We're cousins.
And we disagree amicably.
Hello, I'm from the Midwest. I'm
And I
conservative, and
and and I'm from the East Coast and I'm liberal. This is terrible.
is it though? Is it though?
And I obviously keep interrupting my cousin.
It's that Jewish nature of yours, isn't it?
Definitely. Obviously. I was raised very culturally Jewish. This is typical of me.
But that's okay. We have different backgrounds. We disagree with
And
stuff, but we like having conversations.
and we don't let it ruin how great of family we are.
Yep. We usually go, well, I see you disagree on what I'm saying. We'll talk to you next week.
Yes, it's been so fun.
Yeah, it really
And
has.
so this week we are doing the intro for Cyberpunk Month. We've been super excited about this.
And maybe one or two failed podcast attempts.
Yes. There is a lot to look forward to. We have read a few classics and I have failed to read a few classics as well for
Stopped halfway
Cyberpunk
through.
Month. But there is so much that we are looking forward to in this upcoming month of media, and we wanted to discuss what cyberpunk is and what we think makes it great. Eric, what is your favorite part of this genre? And because you're a little bit more into sci-fi, like what makes it this genre, and what's your favorite thing about it?
Oh boy, that's a lot of question. Well, I would have to say probably one of my favorite things about this specific genre of science fiction is the dystopian feel. It's very, how should I put it? It kind of more looks at the underbelly of society than it really does the spick and span, clean nature of something like Star Trek or even Star Wars for that matter. Yeah, you got these rebel, alliance people, and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna get the job done. Good job, guys." Where Cyberpunk is can be a lot more depressing nature, and it leans more into that dystopian feel.
I've noticed with your other media, you've mentioned Horus Heresy, where you really like the grittiness of the environment or the
Yes,
storytelling.
it's
So,
it's there's an actual phrase for that. It's called grimdark. So it's like things are so bad, so horrific. We're just trying to survive, and usually it's like humanity as a whole. In like 40K, well, that is kind of almost. Well, it's kind of a cyberpunky in a way, but it's so far in the future that it kind of, you know, it definitely does have those elements, which is interesting you bring that up, actually.
well, I've talked with you quite a few times about media, and I've noticed that you really do like that grimdark, and I was wondering if that was the main appeal about cyberpunk, or is it the environment? Is it the fact that it's a dystopia? Is it the environment, the cityscape of it?
Um, I think a little bit of both, really. So I do like the fact that it has a like social commentary element to it too, where some of your other media doesn't have that, where you can bring in relevant things in this day and age, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. You know, where
So,
you can make those connections, if that makes sense.
where it can really bring in the current topics of today, issues that people are really facing that are more disturbing, and put them in this environment and discuss them.
Yeah. So one of the topics we're going to talk about is Ghost in the Shell. It talks about what is it to be human and an AI gaining sentience almost. And especially with, current events, we have AI in the news all the time right now, talking about, oh my gosh, this will take over my job. And it kind of, I don't want to say praise on those fears, but it talks about those kind of elements.
Well, Ghost in the Shell was made a long time ago. Do you think that the AI that we see in all of these cyberpunk media made 20 years ago, and the AI that we have that we call AI today, is even close to the same thing?
Um, I mean, it could be. I think it's projection, the scientific fantasy of what AI could be, but at the same time, you know, we're right at the beginning of this. I would call it the next biggest thing, right? Is the AI revolution. And Cyberpunk kind of plays into that kind of fear and of the unknown almost to a lot more than some of the other uh, science fiction genres.
It really is a facet of the time because it really became into emergence in the 80s when technology started becoming big. But
Well, here's the thing. So I'm going to disagree with you a little bit on this one. I would say the really big cyberpunk, the foundations were laid in the 80s and earlier, but then in the 90s, it really gained momentum because you had the advent of AOL online. Everybody had an affordable computer that had access to the internet in the 90s. Whereas before, the internet was a very niche kind of thing.
so
And
people weren't scared of technology until they had access to technology.
yeah, exactly. And that's kind of what, you know, I like I said, I like so much about the cyberpunk genre is, you have these kind of fears and you have these kind of over technology societies and, corporations are ruling everything. These are kind of the tropes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And these tropes were started with like Neuromancer, with the Matrix, you know, the going into the world of the internet and seeing it as a vast space where you can navigate, right?
I wonder if because this genre came into existence as digital media came to exist, if it has shaped how we conceive of digital media, because we talk a lot about exploring digital media and the virtual world and all this stuff in this way as if it's another place
Yeah.
in in a way that's, when you think about it, must have been inspired by this media,
Yeah.
making it still relevant today.
So I I can almost guarantee you, what do you think of when you hear of cyberspace or virtual reality? Do you kind of conjure these images that you've seen in like The Matrix and
So I think of the Matrix and
yep,
the Oculus,
yep. And that was very much rooted in the cyberpunk genre.
for sure.
That is
Very,
like
very true.
quintessential cyberpunk.
You
So,
mentioned
oh,
AI a lot.
yeah.
I noticed.
Well,
Do
it's one facet. I think another big part of cyberpunk is the transhumanism. So like replacing a limb with a bionic arm that's can do more than what your natural body can do. I think
I
that is
think,
key too.
to me, the cyberpunk genre, I really think about like the cyborg aspect is really my what I take away from the genre, because again, that transhumanism aspect, that merging of human and machine, and I enjoyed seeing it in the newest Guardians of the Galaxy with it almost placed against the more modern, sleek versions of things as the antagonist, with Rocket Raccoon as a cyborg as the protagonist. And this retrofuturism we get to see as him being the older model. And I think that that to me is very interesting, this idea.
Yeah.
And there's also a very specific like punk aspect, because cyberpunk isn't just, oh, this like gritty aspect and, oh, AI and humans being merged with machines.
It,
It's very much about defying a
it's defying the system. I know exactly what you're talking about, and a good example, it didn't really do good at the box office, was a movie called Hackers. Again, it came out in the 90s, right? And it's these kids hacking into um like the CIA, and then they get arrested, and then they need to figure out, oh my gosh, it's been a long time. But it's kind of like the counterculture aspect of going against the man or the corporation that also has a big aspect of what is cyberpunk.
Is that your introduction to cyberpunk?
Uh, well, actually, my introduction came in the form of a different media altogether, games. I used to play System Shock, and it was such a just eye opening, crazy game because you could go in and it's like an immersive sim, so you could run around, pretty much do anything. And up till recently, I had never really finished the game, but I just remember it such like an iconic thing that I actually have a tattoo on my arm of Shodan from System Shock 2, which I had finished because it's such a just horrifying, terrifying, dystopian. I don't know how to explain it. It's just really, really good, and again kind of plays on the you're a hacker and then you get hired by this company to hack the ethical um, core out of this AI. So you hack it not to be ethical anymore, and then it just runs amok. So you need to go fix your mistake in the game. Well, that's the second one, but that is how I
Speaking of
got introduced.
speaking of games, there is a game that you keep talking about that is new. So it's Cyberpunk is coming back, right? It's like more common again.
Yeah, so I kind of we were talking about this. I there's a lot of cyberpunk properties in the I would say late 80s, 90s, and then in like the 2000s, yeah, you still had some, but it wasn't as mainstream. And I feel like up until recently, we really haven't had too many like oh yeah, this is cyberpunk. This is really good kind of stuff.
I
And
think the aesthetic has faded away. Like it kept in goth circles, like the fashion, and a lot of cyberpunk is the aesthetic, but it has become a resurgence. But I do think it's much more diffused now. It's not as concentrated as a genre. It's more within a story you have cyberpunk elements in it.
so you think that like science fiction kind of pulled one or two tropes from that and then used that not necessarily as the setting, but like, oh, we're gonna use like the virtual reality aspect in our property,
Ooh,
or
virtual reality. Yeah, that's a huge one that I feel like that gets used quite a
yeah,
lot.
or like the
Like
hacker element to it, or the seedy underbelly kind of um, aspect, or the corporations ruling the world kind of thing. So you think that that's kind of more like diffused these days?
or like for example, in the newest Guardians of the Galaxy, they had the animal machine cyborgs. That's a specific element from it, but it's not the whole cyberpunk genre. It does have a lot of dystopian undertones, but it's not specifically it doesn't hit all the core elements of cyberpunk.
Right. No, that makes sense. So you asked me kind of what my introduction to cyberpunk was. What was yours?
I think for me it was probably the Matrix. I remember living in New York and watching The Matrix in my living room.
I think for a lot of people, we'll say our age, that was a starting point where it delved into a lot of those questions too and kind of commentary. And honestly, that was kind of a landmark cyberpunk on just visual aspect and a little bit of commentary on like, oh my gosh, are we in the Matrix right now? You know?
Yes. Although we have gone through quite a lot of media for this upcoming month, and of them, I would say I really enjoyed Ghost in the Shell, and the one that impacted me the most, like literally changed how I think about things. Like I think about lines from it all the time is the Cyborg Manifesto, an obscure
Oh my
80s
gosh.
feminist manifesto, which nobody cares about and nobody likes. But isn't that like the essence of cyberpunk? Isn't it? Please.
I couldn't tell you. I tried so hard to.
No,
Oh,
no, I don't expect you to like it, but isn't it being so weird and niche part of the cyberpunk element? Like, if you think about it,
I mean, sure, you're gonna have to explain it to me again. Honestly,
this idea of using cyberpunk elements at the aesthetic to explain current issues today, which is kind of what we were talking about in our intro episode here about how cyberpunk is still relevant. That paper, I feel, it was written in the 80s and it has so many themes of issues that exist then and themes that we could go into then that exist today about transcending the idea of the separation between body and mind, the idea of separating the existence of so many things into a binary. And it also talks about all these little machines, like the technology that we have today. It talks about developing this technology that is now ever present in our everyday life, that is constant, this everyday constant surveillance, all these little machines that we have. It was so fascinating. Literally changed how I think.
By fascinating, do you mean boring?
Look, you suggested a lot of boring books for me, and I have listened to some of them.
I
you
oh,
you gave that a fair shot. I gave them a fair shot. We
fair
all
enough.
tried our best, and we didn't finish a lot of things.
We did finish, like Neuromancer.
Look, I'm sorry. You know, you told me you you've been giving me grief about not finishing it when you haven't finished it either.
Okay, all right, fair point.
it
Okay, so we we typically listen to audiobooks, and one of the things is if you're not listening to Neuromancer, like you're just doing something else, like I'll listen to it doing homework or something because I'm going to college, and you're not paying attention for like 5 or 10 minutes, you jump back in it and go, wait, what the hell is going on? Like, well, I just feel like I missed so much.
I just it was definitely hard for me to get through. There is a lot of elements of it that I can see how it has a classic, how it is become such a staple of the genre, how it influenced things, but it's not personally enjoyable to me. And it definitely had this white guy aftertaste
Ugh,
that
the white guy
marred
thing
my
again.
personal enjoyment. Hey, this is my personal opinion. I'm allowed to have personal opinions.
Yeah, I know. It's just freaking hilarious to me.
Well, you didn't like the feminist aftertaste of Cyborg Manifesto, even though
No, I
you
didn't
would
even
have
know what the
enjoyed.
hell I was reading. All right. I'll say this and I'll say it again. I felt like I came in to a class that I had been gone for the whole semester, and I finally got to the last like lecture, and I'm just sitting here going, "What the hell am I listening to? I missed so much information these previous weeks. I can't even decipher what the hell is going on." And oh, there will be a test on it, so I'm screwed.
Right, and if we didn't have these different opinions, this podcast would be boring as hell. Am I wrong? Am I wrong?
No.
Thank you very much.
See, that's why we'll fight at the dinner table, so you don't have to.
Yes. Even on things like media, we enjoy a lot of the same things, actually.
Yes.
We both really, really enjoy Ghost in the Shell, but we pick
Oh
up
yeah.
such different things. And I get so much out of our discussions because we have such different perspectives on things. And I think that that's really fun.
Most definitely.
So, some of the upcoming things that we have read is the Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, the original book for Blade Runner, and